There you are sitting on your computer 2 years ago when you get a message from your friend saying, check this out, LOL. They link you to an announcement trailer of some silly game called Palworld, which looks like a Poké clone ran through an Unreal Engine, but oh my god. There's weapons, there's intensive labor, you can use your pals as meat shields, and is that a sweatshop? You laugh about it with your friend in DMs, make a joke about how Nintendo is surely going to cease and desist them, silence your phone, lay in bed, close your eyes, and doze off to most likely never hear about this game again. I mean, surely it was a joke, right? Oh my god, it's not a joke. Palworld is here, and it shouldn't be. Every single thing about Palworld doesn't make sense. In fact, I'm half convinced that the final boss of this game is going to be that message that says, hey, you're in a coma, we've been trying to reach you, wake up. But the game is here, and it's really good. And somehow, it has made a lot of people very upset. But before we dive into the Twitter vitriol, possible lawsuits, and sensationalized hatred, I gotta give you my take on the game. Palworld is a really good game. I'm not gonna sit here and pretend that this game reinvented the wheel when in reality it made the Pokémon reinvent the wheel for it. And the guns, and the house, because the sweatshops, you get it. A lot of people are calling this game a Pokémon clone, but besides the incredibly suspect design of the pals themselves, this game doesn't really function as a Pokémon title at all. Sure, the Pokémon, I mean pals, are the main focus, and you have to throw Pokeballs, I mean pal spheres, in order to catch them and fill your Pokédex. Damn it. But besides the main jokey and way too closely inspired bits of parody, you don't get much more Pokemon gameplay. It is 100% a survival crafting game that lets you catch little guys to keep yourself occupied. I mean, look at those cute eyes. All of the progression is tied to gathering resources, leveling up your character, learning how to craft new things, and repeating the cycle. But the way that this game manages to make pals work in the world is what's so impressive. Each pal does have a type with a strength and weakness attached to it, but in this game it goes so much deeper. For example, instead of a fire pal only having a strength and weakness in battle, it also gives them a completely different use around camp. Fire types can cook for you or melt ore to create ingots. Water types can water your crops for you to grow food for the camp. Grass types can plant, and this list goes on. Getting as deep as having different combinations of workforce usefulness depending on the pal itself. It sounds a little confusing, but chances are if the guy is bipedal with hands, he can probably help you carry things around or craft at a bench. This system is further enhanced by allowing the pals to have multiple natures as well. Some really good for combat purposes like damage resistances or bonuses against a certain enemy type, while others are more useful for camp life like dieters that don't eat as much resources or work slaves that just work faster than everyone else. This makes catching pals so much more rewarding because you're always looking for the perfect combinations for your battle party and your camp party. It also really appeases the die-hard Pokemon fans that really like to grind and catch thousands of the same thing. Battling in this game is a really fun, albeit somewhat glitchy time, with pals either relying on the game's funky AI to attack each other and exchange blows, or just serving as a vessel that you can control and fight for yourself. Being a survival crafting game, I always feel my excitement peaking when I see that I can craft a new pal item that will change how I interact with the environment. Like a saddle for my big bird so that I can fly him around the map, a pair of gloves for my fly fish so that I can use him as a glider, and a bazooka for my penguin. He's not gonna use it, he's gonna be the ammo. The monkey can have a gun though. There's clearly a lot of thought being put into every single corner of this game, and due to the systems created, it all fits into a gameplay loop that I can tell is gonna take hundreds of hours out of my precious life. You catch pals so that you can level up and evolve your camp. You evolve your camp so that you can make better equipment. You use the stronger equipment to catch stronger pals so that you can make a better camp, and you repeat the cycle all over again. Nothing feels like an afterthought, and because of it you may find yourself getting lost every corner because you lose your train of thought and do something else that is completely necessary and just as important. Do you know how stupid I feel when I leave my camp specifically to go fight a boss monster and instead come back with 100 shards of palladium so that I can make more pal spheres? Like, I'm not that dumb. It happens every time. Obviously, this game is an early access title, and in turn it comes comes with more bugs in it than Timon and Pumbaa. But in the age where so many full releases feel like early access titles that shouldn't have been shipped, it's actually kind of refreshing to finally get an early access title that feels like a full game. Which is a pretty sad thing to be excited about, but here we are. My computer is complete dog shit after a Minecraft video that I shot a while back that turned my GPU into a George Foreman grill. But I can still play Palworld with decent settings, record the footage, and stream it at the same time. Stream plug. There's a level of polish that can't be understated. Sure, the AI breaks way more than it should, but for the most part, a lot of things function exactly as intended, minus a glitch here or there which is expected from full games at twice the price. But don't get me wrong, the AI is incredibly frustrating at times. Especially in the camp segments, where you constantly have to respawn your pals because they decided to take a left turn into the back rooms. Or they just don't do the task you want them to do and choose to do something else. It's a lot like having a cat in real life, which I do now, by the way. Everyone comment, "Hi Henry, he's the cutest thing in the world, look at him." So far, my issues with the AI definitely crescendoed when I did the first boss fight, and I realized that I could just recall my pal anytime it was in immediate danger, and it would break the boss's targeting completely. The boss also moved around a lot, and the stage had pillars everywhere, so a lot of my damage was wasted because the boss would accidentally stand behind pillars that my pals were too stupid to notice. I've also had enemies glitch into the wall and become untargetable, AI that just forgot I existed, and one time, my house blew up. I don't even have the evidence. I went to go eat, came back, shit was gone. But these complaints are minor from the larger picture of what's at play. The game itself is pushed forward by your need to explore and fill out the map, catch more pals, unlock new technology, gather resources to make said technology, fight a boss, and then do it all over again. And this aspect of looking for new guys and being stoked about which kind of funny little fella you're gonna find next is what makes traveling around so rewarding. That's basically the most Pokemon part you're going to get out of this entire experience. I've never really been a Pokemon competitor, so this game manages to keep intact my favorite parts of Pokemon while also merging them with a style of gameplay that I outright prefer. The overworld is also spruced up by having caves, bosses walking around the map, lucky pals which are insanely rare, events, raid dungeons, settlements, and cannibalism. Yeah, you could actually capture the humans that attack you and then you could butcher them for meat. Pals are important, but they always serve as a co-star to the very capable trainer, instead of being the main event while the trainer just checks his Twitter or something. This makes encounters so much more fun because you actually have to dodge roll, aim your attacks, and be very careful if you're stupid like me and didn't put a single experience point into defense or health. Kind of regret that one still. One of my biggest turnoffs when it comes to playing any survival crafting game is the repetitive grind that it takes to get your resources. And honestly, that's still a factor in Palworld, but the little guys make it a lot more automated and therefore more palatable. Because the word pal's in it? No? Okay. I obviously haven't beaten it yet because at the time of this recording, the game's only been out for 3 days, and unfortunately sometimes I have to eat and sleep and be a person. But I really do enjoy this game. And since they plan to add full-blown PvP to further updates alongside making more multiplayer features, the future of Palworld seems bright if it can just make it out of the next few months. Now that we got that review out of the way, it's time to dive into the world of controversy surrounding this game. And buckle up, it's gonna be a big one. The main concern that I've seen rehashed in 50 different fonts all over Twitter is how closely these pals resemble the Pokemon that they're inspired by, which is definitely a little too close for comfort. Here's the Galarian Meowth from Pokemon, while here's a pal that has the exact same eyes, pupils in the exact same spot, just a little more opaque, exact same mouth shape, exact same mouth, exact same amount of teeth and teeth shape. Here's the Pokemon Cinderace next to another pal that has the exact same knee cuffs, proportion sizes down to the tiny hands and big forearms, ears with the big stripe, etc. And this list goes on for a lot longer than it should. You can definitely argue that this is all merely inspiration information and nothing more. But the situation does get a lot muddier when you see that the CEO is a very huge advocate for AI art, and also their last game was a game where you generate AI art. I've seen a couple hundred tweets now cry wolf saying that they're not going to support Palworld because of the use of AI, which is absolutely insane because that hasn't been proven yet, like anywhere. And if it has been proven by the day that this video is supposed to come out, then I'm going to interject right now. Are we good? Thank God. There are tens of thousands of likes being thrown on these posts about the alleged AI use, which I think is a little too mob mentality for my own blood. Still, there are a lot of pretty bad things about this game and its overall success. I understand that it's impossible to own an art style, but you can't argue that some of these pals aren't at least a little plagiarized. And after looking through a few threads on Twitter, I completely understand the whole absence of evidence is not the evidence of absence thing. Like, just look at some of these. Come the fuck on. This is straight up copied homework. And I get that a lot of people are mad at Pokemon for being shit for such a long time, but we shouldn't really applaud plagiarism. It's very damning, and it very clearly sets a negative precedent for the future of game development. The success of Palworld is an example of how you can hijack someone else's entire work and get great success from it. Stealing as much as you can artistically from the largest gaming franchise on Earth is a very ballsy gamble. But it's a gamble that has proven time and time again it can be successful if done correctly. Roblox and Fortnite custom modes being a shining example that stealing from another IP to get people to click on your work is fruitful. You don't believe me? Well, what about Blox Fruits? Or any other Roblox game for that matter? Not to mention Crab Game, which we all universally cheered for on release. The aspect of parody isn't something that normally gets people this riled up. I mean, Borderlands 2 had Minecraft in it. Closer to this, Pocket Morty's is a funny Rick and Morty Pokemon clone released by Adult Swim that people just laughed off. Parody has been in video games since their inception, and it's never really been a big issue. So why now? Well, Pokemon is a very touchy subject. I'm sure you've seen the discourse of how their games are unfinished, glitchy messes, and how Nintendo stopped caring once they realized they could just shit one out every year and still break records. The reality is that Pokemon has let down a massive portion of their community for a pretty long time now, and with every single buggy, laggy, and low-resolution release, people have been growing more and more bitter, with thousands of players swearing off the franchise after being let down one too many times in a row. Palworld, using the concept of Pokemon alongside a lot of the design and art style, has kind of become a shining example that the genre that's been letting everyone down for so long while also profiting so much doesn't really have an excuse to be bad anymore. Pokemon as a franchise has become this shunned figure that inspires a lot of negative press whenever a new game rears its low poly head. Don't believe me? Go on Twitter right now and tweet, "I believe that Pokemon Scarlet and Violet are great games with no problems," and you'll wake up with a severed Pikachu tail in your bed. Seeing that this style of art and concept for a game can be done with this much polish just adds fuel to a fire that's been growing for decades. Pokemon has also been known to be very protective of their IP, sending out cease and desists like their greeting cards. A greeting card where it just says, "Wish you were here," and it's a red arrow pointing into a jail cell. That's a good one. In fact, a random modder thought it would be fun to mod Pokemon into Palworld. Seeing this news, I tweeted, "The head of Nintendo's legal team just got an erection so fast and hard it sent his fucking work desk into orbit." And even though there were a ton of comments saying that Nintendo wouldn't do anything about it because they didn't have the power to do so, the developer of the mod said, "Nintendo has come for me." Not even 24 hours hours later. Do you know how pressed you have to be to send someone a cease and desist within 24 hours? Following all of this and seeing mod after mod and fan game after fan game being shut down or sent a cease and desist creates a lot of negative publicity for Pokemon as a whole. But then Palworld shows up out of nowhere and not only somehow gets away with it, but also hits the second highest concurrent player base ever in the history of Steam. And all of this within its first week of release. That is completely insane. Want to know something else that's insane? Pokemon Sword and Shield bragged about selling 6 million units in its first week. Palworld has sold 6 million units in its first 4 days. And though there's a ton of red flags about the ethics, the designs, and the plagiarism that is definitely at play here, I don't think it's fair to say that people are buying Palworld to spite Pokemon. Palworld is a great game, which is unfortunately going to be bogged down for a while because they decided to skip a few steps. Had they chosen their own art style and hired talented artists to create beasts that look like they belonged in their own land, Palworld could easily be a survivor creature catcher game that not only reinvented the genre, but would be able to spearhead it for years to come. I keep seeing so many tweets from people complaining that it's so annoying to see grown-ups complain about Pokemon and how they should move on because Pokemon isn't for them anymore. And Palworld may have just proved that, because this game is definitely not for children. Like at all. As it stands at the point of this recording, there are so many red flags around the development of Palworld that playing this game feels a lot like wearing a shock collar. You don't know when it's gonna go off, and the collar itself doesn't hurt either, but the fear is there, and it's making it very hard to finish mastering. I really hope that this stuff gets cleared up, because as it stands, Palworld is a refreshing take on a genre that really needed some life put into it. Now here's where I bring up the good news, the light at the end of the tunnel in this trying time. Even though Palworld doesn't function fully as a Pokemon title, it did use Pokemon, its likeness, and creature catching in general to make a game worth playing. And if 6 million copies in 4 days means anything, it means that the world has been begging for a good Pokemon-like title. The numbers are there. It's the largest franchise in history for a reason. And looking at the replies to a Nintendo Pokemon tweet, people are now realizing that this could have been popular within the genre all along. I'm not gonna sit here and pretend that this is lighting a fire under Nintendo's ass, and that Palworld is gonna somehow miraculously make Nintendo create the Pokemon game that we've been dreaming about. The harsh truth is that Nintendo can release a Pokemon game that is just 8 minutes of Pikachu peeing, and it would still probably break records. What I'm saying is that Palworld has hit number 2 most concurrent players on Steam in history. And do you know what hit number 1? PUBG. Why does that matter? Because when PUBG came out and garnered the amount of success that it did, do you remember what happened? Every game released over the next 2 years was a battle royale. We got Shooter Battle Royale, Magic Battle Royale, Game Grumps Battle Royale, Call of Duty Battle Royale, Fighting Battle Royale, Future Battle Royale, Past Battle Royale, Battle Royale, Japanese classic, Funny Battle Royale, Assassin Battle Royale, Hero Battle Royale, My Hero Battle Royale, Animal Battle Royale, Worms Battle Royale, Pac-Man Battle Royale, Final Fantasy Battle Royale. And what's the point? Whether or not Nintendo sits down and actually gives the players what they want is not what matters. What matters is that a team actually fucking did. And if our wallets mean anything, it means that it's time for more devs to understand the importance of letting us explore colorful worlds and catch cute little guys. And honestly, I find that beautiful. Pokemon might never let their franchise blossom into what everyone knows it can be, but their idea that inspired millions and has defined the childhood of so many people will live on. And if they don't want to sit down and create something worthwhile in the genre that defined a generation, that's fine, but someone else will, and the world is ready for it. Now I'm gonna go chop up a flame spirit and feed it to my dog. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I normally don't try to cover like like relevant topics and stuff like that. But Palworld was something that was very interesting to me, so I hope that my topics made sense to you, or at least made you laugh. I would like to know your take on the entire thing. I know that there's a lot of people who fall on the side of they cannot support the game because they know there was some plagiarism, and some people that fall on the side of I don't care, I'm gonna play it because it's fun and Pokemon has been robbing me for years anyway. Please let me know in the comment section below, because I'll genuinely be reading that because this is just so fascinating to me. Besides that, I actually made a second channel where I'm going to be uploading content that's not as edited as this one, so if you want to subscribe to that, it's going to be right here. I'm also streaming again, so there's my stream link, and I'll be streaming on this channel as well, so look out for that. Maybe I'll play some Palworld. Who knows? Subscribe! I think that's all I gotta say. Goodbye!